Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name's Tess Ryan. Haven't been on for a while. I hope everybody had a nice Christmas and a happy new year. We're coming up to February this year. It's Valentine's Day. It doesn't mean a lot for me. It is my granddaughter's birthday, so that'll be nice. Today's topic that I wanted to talk about was listen to your heart, mainly because there is a lot of depression in the world, and I was one that always suffered from depression in my earlier years and some of the later years. And I had a bit of a problem getting a grip on it. And but what I realised as time went by, that our life actually is a journey, and sometimes we can ignore what we're being told. We all have this inner voice with our intuition, and often we just don't listen to what is our truth. And as I discovered in the later years, when I was born, as you know, everybody's born, they're given a name, they're brought up in a family, and they're taught the way their parents know, and a lot of wrong is put on parents. People blame their parents for a lot of things, but in actual fact, parents can only do what they can do. They can only teach what they know and teach what they've learnt. And we're all brought up in a world where we're given principles to live by our parents or our guardians, or wherever it is we're put at the time. We're given a name, and all of this was not of our choice, and the way our life will go is based on those principles until maybe we find another way. But in fact, our life is a journey, and our journey is endless, just as our life is endless. Even though our bodies may die, our spirits go on. Our spirits go on. Some people may not believe this. This is my belief. And as we go along our life, we learn different things. I myself was brought up in a very strict Christian family, and we were given very tough principles in our family. There was lots of rules, lots of limitations, and there wasn't a lot of love either. So everything was strictly Bible taught. And when I was a very small child, I was only very young. I think the first thing that I realised was, and this is really, really stupid, I guess. Some people would find it very stupid me saying this, but I remember the disappointment, the utter disappointment I had when I discovered that my parents were telling me about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and they weren't real. And yet the whole time we were taught, don't lie. And I discovered that my parents were lying to me, and it was quite incredible. It really disillusioned me, and it was from that time on I realised that my parents weren't completely perfect. They weren't perfect, and this sort of like knocked the legs out of my chair. The fact that, you know, they were my role models and I looked up to them. I thought that they were everything. They were like God to me, my parents. And this was quite a disappointment for me to realise that my parents weren't always right. And this is a really big factor to a lot of people blaming their parents, that we only know what we know, we're only taught what we're taught. We go along with the principles they learnt from their parents. They stepped out and found their own way, and this is what life's journey is all about. It's about finding our own heart, listening to our own heart, and we all do have this inner voice that speaks to us. With mine, I was very depressed, as I say, and I truly believe that this was because I was ignoring what my actual soul wanted, what my actual soul needed. I constantly had this voice telling me there's something you need to do, there's more to your life, you need to do more. And I compared it to going along on a journey, really. It's a bit funny, I work in the railway industry, but life is similar to that. You go on this journey and you get off at stations. Some stations you'll get off, you'll have a great time, but if you stay in that place, that's all you're going to get. You're going to get a great time, you're going to get joy, or it doesn't matter what you're going through at the time, but that's about the limit you're going to get, whatever is there at that station, at that stop. So life's journey is not about getting to one place and staying there. It's about continuing on, because learning is an eternal thing. Learning continues, it goes on and on. You will never stop learning, and if you close yourself off to things, like, you will come across many things, and going back to that example of the station, okay, you've got off, you've had a good time, you've had a great time, but eventually you're going to have to get back on that train and go further to experience more things. You might get off along the way at some stages of your life, and it may be a terrible thing. It may be, as in my case, like depression and everything. But everybody has a free will as to whether they want to stay at that place. You can choose to stay at that place, or you can choose to leave and go on and learn more, experience more. And this is what life's about, and this is what learning is about. It continues, it continually goes on. It's an eternal thing. And it's exactly the same as if you're reading a book. You know, the only thing that you can do, if you're going to stick to one book, that's the only contents you're ever going to get in that book. So it's a good thing to, if you want to learn and you want to increase in knowledge, you pick up more books, you find other ways, you listen to things. And another thing is being open. Just because you may think that you're right doesn't mean that you are. There is an example for that. It was a scientific example. A philosopher said he drew a line, and he drew a 6, and there was one person standing on one side, another person standing on the other side, and one person swore that they could see 6. The other person said, no, it's not a 6, it's a 9. And these were two different perspectives of this one number. It was exactly the same thing, but they both saw it a different way, and neither one of them were wrong. There was another experiment done of animals drawn. There were 3 people in a line, and in one line there was a goat drawn, there was an elephant and a giraffe, and that's what they saw. They drew the line, and on the other side of the line, the other 3 people saw a seal, a turkey and a penguin. And once again, it was the one drawing, but they all had different perspectives of it. They all saw it differently, they believed it differently. And none of them were wrong. They were all right, because that's what they saw, that's what they believed, and that's what their conscience told them it was. So therefore, you can listen to all different versions of things, and what really matters is what your own soul is bearing truth to you. You've got to resonate with what you're believing. With me, I went into the church where my parents were. They taught us this faith. I went into the church, and once again, it was like me going on the journey to the stations. At times I did have joy, I had happiness, but deep down within me I still was depressed. I wasn't right. It just didn't sit with me. And what I needed to do was I needed to open myself, because I found being closed within a room, closed within that church, I could not see anything else. I'd been brought up in that way, so therefore that was the only thing I knew. I didn't know anything else in the world. I didn't know what life consisted of, or or what lessons were, or how to deal with things, because I had a very sheltered life within that church, and all I knew was what was written in the Bible and what was taught in that way. So I decided I had to find myself. I had to find myself. So what I did was I emptied myself. I opened myself up. And this is kind of like another example. It's the same with, if you want light through a window, you don't close down the blind. You've got to open the blind, otherwise you're not going to get the light in. Okay, you can switch on the power if anybody wants to be Pacific. You can switch on a light switch and you can get that artificial light, but eventually, you know, the electricity will run out and you'll have to pay that bill. That's if you want to be Pacific and argue about that. But what I'm saying is, you know, you won't get light or you won't get answers if you're a closed blind. So, you know, if you believe that you know everything, you won't get answers and you won't continue learning. The only way you can continue learning is by opening your heart, opening your soul, listening to your own voice, finding the path that you're on, and resonating with what's right with you. You need to be true to yourself, because if you're not true to yourself, you can't be true to anybody else. And if you want to have love and peace in your life, that's the only way you're going to get it, is by being true to yourself and listening to your own heart and going along with what resonates with you. And that was the main thing that I really wanted to say today, was about going with your heart, listening to what's right for you, being open to what is going on around you. Don't close yourself off and think that you know it all, because if you believe that you know it all, you're not going to expand, you're not going to learn. You will come to a stalemate eventually. You'll be like being in that room with the closed blind. So you need to be open, and you need to listen, and you need to learn. And there's many things that you will learn along the way which you won't agree with. That's been my way. Since opening myself up, there's been lots of things that I haven't gone with. I've felt, no, that's not me. But I've needed to go along, and I've needed to learn to realise what resonates with me, what is right with me, and what I don't agree with. And this is what I've done. So since doing this, I did obtain peace, and I listened to my heart, I listened to my soul. I got rid of that depression, because now I am walking in the way that feels right to me, that the way to truth, and gaining more light into my life, and accepting other people for who they are as well, because now I can accept myself for who I am. I'm able to accept others for who they are. So that was about all I wanted to say today, and I hope maybe that may be of help to somebody. Thanks for listening. Bye.